I stared at my phone screen in disbelief, my coffee growing cold beside me. There it was. My house, listed for sale on Zillow. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, original hardwood floors, and a price tag that made my stomach turn. The same house Leo and I had lovingly restored over 5 years of marriage. The same house I'd inherited after his death just 3 months ago. My name is Charlie, and I'm a human rights lawyer who apparently can't even protect her own property rights. I'm going to kill her, I muttered, zooming in on the listing photos. Pictures Olivia must have taken while I was staying with my parents, trying to piece myself back together after the funeral. My phone buzzed. Ingrid's face popped up on the screen. "Tell me you've seen it," she said without preamble. "Oh, I've seen it. My dear sister-in-law's really outdone herself this time. How is this even legal?" Ingrid's voice crackled with indignation. "The house is yours. Leo left it to you in the will." I ran my fingers through my unwashed hair, pacing the guest room at my parents' house. "It's not legal, that's the thing. She has no right to sell it." "Then why?" "Because she's Olivia," I cut in. "And she's probably counting on me being too grief-stricken to fight back." The doorbell rang downstairs. I ignored it. But moments later, my mother called up, "Charlie, Olivia's here." Perfect timing. I took a deep breath. "Ingrid, I've got to go. The devil herself just arrived." "Want me to come over?" "No, I've got this. But stay close to your phone." I headed downstairs, still in my oversized sweater and leggings, to find Olivia perched on our formal living room sofa, like she owned the place. She wore her signature red lipstick and a black blazer that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Charlie," she said, standing to air-kiss my cheek, "you look comfortable." "Cut the act, Olivia. I saw the listing." She didn't even have the decency to look surprised. "Oh, that. Well, I thought it was time we discussed the house situation." "There is no situation," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "The house is mine. Leo left it to me." "Leo was my brother," she countered, her perfectly manicured hands clasped in front of her. "And that house has been in our family for generations. Surely you can see why it should stay with blood relatives." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Blood relatives like you, who need a quick sale to cover their gambling debts." Olivia's face went white beneath her makeup. "How dare you?" "Will told me everything," I lied, watching her reaction. The flash of panic in her eyes confirmed my suspicions. "The casino tabs, the maxed-out credit cards. Is that why you're trying to sell my house out from under me?" "You don't understand," she said, her voice dropping. "I'm in trouble, Charlie. Real trouble." "Then get help, but not by stealing my home." She stood straighter, smoothing her blazer. "I've already had several interested buyers. Marquis, my real estate agent, thinks we could close within the month." "Over my dead body." "Don't be dramatic," she sighed. "I'm offering you 30% of the sale price. That's more than generous." I stepped closer, close enough to smell her expensive perfume. "Let me be very clear. That house is all I have left of Leo. If you try to sell it, I will bury you in so much legal paperwork your grandchildren will be filing motions." "You're grieving," Olivia said softly, but I caught the tremor in her voice. "You're not thinking clearly." Actually, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months." I pulled out my phone and showed her the listing. "Take this down, today, or I start making calls." She gathered her designer purse, her movements precise and controlled. "You're making a mistake, Charlie. This could get ugly." "It already is." After she left, I called Ingrid back with shaking hands. "Well," she answered immediately, "I'm moving back into the house, tonight. Can you help? I'll bring wine and reinforcements. What's the plan?" I looked at the framed photo of Leo and me on my parents' wall, taken the day we finished renovating the kitchen. His smile was so bright, so full of life and love. "The plan is," I said, determination settling into my bones, "I'm going to make Olivia wish she'd never tried to cross me." "That's my girl," Ingrid said. "I'll be there in an hour." "And Charlie?" "Yeah?" "Leo would be proud of you for fighting back." I touched the wedding ring I still wore. twisting it once. I know, that's exactly what I'm counting on. You need a lawyer, Luna said, spreading files across my parents' dining room table. I mean, a different lawyer, not you. I am a lawyer, I reminded her, sorting through the stack of documents Ingrid had brought from my office. A human rights lawyer, Luna corrected, tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the deed to my house. This is real estate law. Different animal entirely. Ingrid returned from the kitchen with 3 cups of coffee. She's right, Charlie. You wouldn't perform surgery on yourself, would you? Fine, I conceded, taking a sip. But first, we move my stuff back in. Tonight. Luna's eyebrows shot up. That's aggressive. So is trying to sell my house while I'm grieving my husband. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. I opened it to find Will, Olivia's husband, looking uncomfortable in his business suit. Can we talk? He asked. I let him in, watching as he nodded awkwardly to Luna and Ingrid. They took the hint and retreated to the kitchen, though I knew they'd be listening. Olivia told me about your conversation, Will said, remaining standing. She's upset. She's upset? I couldn't help but laugh. That's rich. Look, I know how this seems. Do you? I interrupted. Because it seems like your wife is trying to steal my home while I'm still wearing black. Will's face reddened. It's complicated, Charlie. We're in a tough spot financially. That's not my problem. Leo would have wanted. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare tell me what Leo would have wanted. He wanted me to have the house. That's why he left it to me. Will ran a hand through his graying hair. Olivia received a text while you were talking. She thinks it was from you. I pulled out my phone and showed him the message I'd sent. Check your email. Thought you might want to see these casino statements before they become public record. That was me, I confirmed. I have more. Jesus, Charlie. I'm moving back in tonight. You can tell Olivia that if she tries to stop me, those statements go to everyone in her precious country club. Will's shoulders slumped. You've changed. Death does that to people. After he left, Ingrid and Luna emerged from the kitchen. That was intense, Ingrid said, pulling me into a hug. Luna was already on her phone. I'm calling in reinforcements. My brother's moving company owes me a favor. They can be here in an hour. I nodded, my hands trembling slightly. Good. Because we're not just moving my stuff back. We're throwing a housewarming party. A party? Ingrid's eyes lit up. Now? Tomorrow night, I want witnesses. I want everyone to see me back in my home. Make it harder for Olivia to play her games. Luna was typing furiously. I'm creating the event now. Welcome home, Charlie, the return of the Queen. Too much. Perfect, I said, starting to pack the files. And make it public. 2 hours later, we pulled up to my house in a convoy. The moving truck, Ingrid's SUV packed with supplies, and Luna's Mercedes bringing up the rear. The porch light was on. She's here, I muttered, spotting Olivia's car in the driveway. Want us to go first? Ingrid offered. I shook my head, grabbing my house keys. No, this is my fight. Olivia opened the door before I could use my key. Behind her, I could see Marquise, her real estate agent, looking uncomfortable. You can't do this, Olivia said, blocking the doorway. I held up my keys. Actually, I can. This is my house. Here's my key. Would you like to see the deed too? Or maybe the will? I have interested buyers coming tomorrow. Cancel them. I stepped forward, forcing her to move back. Or don't. Let them come to my housewarming party instead. I'm sure they'd love to hear how you tried to sell a house you don't own. Marquis cleared his throat. Perhaps I should go? Perhaps you should, I agreed, not taking my eyes off Olivia. And take down that listing before I file a complaint with the real estate board. He practically ran to his car. Olivia remained, her face flushed with anger. You'll regret this, she said quietly. No, I won't. But you might. I turned to the moving truck. Start with the bedroom furniture. As the movers began unloading, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off now, or everyone learns what really happened the night Leo died. I showed it to Ingrid, who gasped. That has to be from Olivia. What is she talking about? I watched Olivia's retreating figure, her heels clicking on the sidewalk. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Charlie, Luna called from the truck. Where do you want Leo's old desk? In the study, I said, pocketing my phone. Right where it belongs. The night stretched ahead of us, full of heavy lifting and strategic planning, but for the first time since Leo's death, I felt truly alive. Tomorrow's party would be just the beginning. Olivia wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that grief had made me a very dangerous opponent. The housewarming party was in full swing when Olivia made her grand entrance. She hadn't bothered to RSVP, but I'd been expecting her. What I hadn't expected was the small army of people she brought with her. Will, Marquis, and two men in suits I didn't recognize. Don't panic, Ingrid whispered, appearing at my elbow with a fresh glass of wine. Luna's got the deed and Will copies ready. I watched Olivia navigate through the crowd of my friends and colleagues, her fake smile growing tighter with each person who greeted me as the homeowner. Charlie, she said when she finally reached me. Quite the gathering. Just welcoming myself home, I replied, raising my glass. Care for a tour? The house hasn't changed much since you tried to sell it yesterday. One of the suited men stepped forward. Ms. Thompson, I'm Richard from First Capital Bank. We need to discuss the outstanding liens on this property. The room didn't exactly go silent, but the volume definitely dropped. I felt dozens of eyes on us. There are no liens on this house, I said clearly, making sure my voice carried. The mortgage is paid off. Leo made sure of that before he died. Nevertheless, the other suit said, Mrs. Thompson has certain financial claims. Mrs. Thompson has no claims whatsoever, Luna interrupted, materializing with a folder. And if you're here as her legal representation, you should know that attempting to sell property without legal ownership is fraud. Olivia's composure cracked. You don't understand what you're doing, Charlie. You think you're so clever with your party and your lawyer friends, but you have no idea. About what? I stepped closer. About how you lost $500,000 at Paradise Casino last month? About the second mortgage you took out on your own house? Or about what really happened the night Leo died? Will grabbed Olivia's arm. That's enough. We're leaving. No, she jerked away from him. She needs to know. Leo was going to sell this house anyway. He promised to help us. Help me. The night he died, he was coming to sign the papers. The room went dead quiet. My wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. You're lying, I whispered. Am I? Olivia pulled out her phone. I have the texts. He knew about my debts. He was going to save me, like he always did. But then the accident. The accident you caused? The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Olivia went white. Will stepped between us. What are you talking about? My hands were shaking. Phone records, Olivia. I have those too. You called him 7 times that night. He was answering your last call when he hit the tree. I never meant. Olivia swayed on her feet. The bank representatives exchanged uncomfortable looks. Get out, I said, my voice steel. All of you, now! This isn't over, Olivia managed, but her threat sounded hollow. Actually, it is. Luna held up her phone. Everything that just happened, recorded, including your admission about the phone calls. I'm sure the insurance company would be very interested. The exodus was quick after that. As the door closed behind them, Ingrid started cleaning up the broken glass, while Luna made apologetic noises to the remaining guests. Party's over, everyone, I announced. Thank you for coming. Later, after the last guest had left, I sat in Leo's old study with Ingrid and Luna, a fresh bottle of wine between us. What do we do now? Ingrid asked softly. I traced the edge of Leo's desk, remembering how he used to sit here late at night, working on his designs. We find out if she's telling the truth about the texts. And if she is, Luna looked concerned. If Leo really was going to sell, then I honor his wishes, I said simply. But not like this. not to pay off her gambling debts. My phone buzzed. A text from Will. We need to talk, privately, tomorrow. Will wants to meet, I told them. Trap, Ingrid said immediately. Opportunity, Luna countered. He looked shocked about the phone calls. Maybe he didn't know. I typed back. Noon, the coffee shop on Main. Whatever happens tomorrow, I said. Olivia just gave us everything we need. She admitted to the gambling, to harassing Leo that night. No judge will let her anywhere near this house now. But is that what you want? Ingrid asked carefully. To destroy her completely? I looked around the study, at the life Leo and I had built, at the future we'd planned, at the empty chair where he should be sitting. What I want, I said slowly, is to understand why. Why she kept calling him that night. Why she's so desperate to get this house. There's something we're still missing. Luna started gathering her things. Well, tomorrow's meeting with Will might give us answers. Just be careful, okay? I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead. If Leo had really been planning to sell our house, our dream home, to save his sister, what else had he kept from me? And more importantly, what was Olivia still hiding? The grandfather clock in the hallway struck midnight, its familiar chime echoing through the empty house. For the first time since moving back in, I felt like an intruder in my own home. The coffee shop was packed when Will arrived, 15 minutes late and looking like he hadn't slept. He slid into the booth across from me, declining my offer of coffee with a shake of his head. I left Olivia, he said without preamble. I set down my cup. When? Last night, after... He rubbed his face. I had no idea about the phone calls, about any of it, really. I mean, I knew she gambled. But this? Why are you here, Will? He pulled out a worn leather notebook. I found this in Leo's old desk at our house. Olivia doesn't know I have it. My heart jumped at the sight of Leo's handwriting on the cover. His project journal? Read the last entry, Will said, sliding it across the table. I opened to the final pages, dated 3 days before the accident. Leo's familiar scrawl filled the margins with sketches and notes, but it wasn't house plans I was looking at. It was a gallery design. I don't understand, I murmured. Keep reading. Told Olivia about the gallery plan today. She cried. First time I've seen her excited about anything in months. The house would be perfect for it. High ceilings, natural light, central location. Charlie's going to love it too. A space for local artists, for the community. Better than letting it sit empty while we're in London for her human rights work. I looked up sharply. London? You didn't know? Know what? Will leaned forward. Leo was planning to surprise you. He'd recommended you for a position with an international human rights organization. 2-year contract starting this fall. The coffee turned sour in my stomach. But the house. Olivia said he was going to sell it to pay her debts. No, Will shook his head. He was going to convert it into an art gallery. Olivia would run it while you were away. It was supposed to be her fresh start, something to focus on besides gambling. A new voice cut in. Is this seat taken? I looked up to find a young woman standing by our table, paint-splattered jeans and a portfolio case slung over her shoulder. Actually, Will began. Please join us, I interrupted, recognizing her from the party. You're Sadie, right? The artist who brought that amazing portrait? She smiled, sliding in next to Will. Sorry to interrupt. I overheard you talking about a gallery. I've been looking for exhibition space in town. Will shot me a warning look, but something clicked in my mind. Tell me about your work, Sadie. For the next 20 minutes, Sadie shared her passion for community-based art projects, her eyes lighting up as she showed us photos of her installations. Will grew increasingly uncomfortable, but I couldn't stop watching her enthusiasm. Excuse me, Will finally said, standing. I should go. But Charlie, be careful with this information. Olivia's desperate. After he left, Sadie turned to me. So this gallery, is it really happening? I don't know, I admitted. It's complicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Saw Will meeting you. Hope he told you the truth about Leo's plans. Can we talk, please? Actually, I said to Sadie, would you be free tomorrow? I'd like you to see the space. That evening, I sat in Leo's study again, his journal open on my lap. Ingrid and Luna sat on the old leather couch, processing everything I'd told them. It makes sense, Luna said slowly. The London position. I remember hearing rumors about it at the firm. But why didn't he tell me? I asked the empty room. Because you were busy fighting that big trafficking case, Ingrid suggested. He was waiting for the right moment. And Olivia? Luna added. Are you really considering letting her anywhere near this place after what she did? I closed the journal carefully. Leo saw something in her that we don't. He believed this gallery could save her. People can't be saved unless they want to be, Ingrid warned. True, I agreed. But you should have seen Sadie today, talking about her art. It reminded me of how Olivia used to be, before the gambling took over. She was actually good at organizing events, at bringing people together. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Olivia. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but Leo believed in this dream. Maybe we could too? You're not seriously considering this, Luna said, reading over my shoulder. I'm considering what Leo would want, I replied. And maybe there's a way to honor his vision while still protecting myself. How? I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the setting sun painted the street in shades of gold and shadow. We draw up a contract, ironclad terms. She gets clean, goes to therapy, and works under strict supervision. One slip, and she's out. And the house stays in your name, Luna added firmly. Always. I turned back to them. Will you help me, both of you? They exchanged looks before nodding. What's the first step? Ingrid asked. I picked up my phone and typed, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring Will and your therapy receipts. We'll talk about Leo's dream and your last chance. The reply came instantly. I'll be there. Thank you, Charlie. Looking around the study, I could almost see Leo's smile, feel his approval. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about forcing them to become better. Olivia arrived exactly on time, alone. No Will, no therapy receipts, and dark circles under her eyes that even her expensive concealer couldn't hide. Where's Will? I asked, letting her in. He's not coming back, she said quietly. He filed for divorce this morning. Luna, who was arranging papers on the dining room table, looked up sharply. And the therapy documentation we asked for? Olivia's hands twisted together. I couldn't. Then this meeting is over, I said, moving toward the door. Wait! Olivia's voice cracked. Please, I found something, in Leo's old files. She pulled out a manila envelope, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Inside was a stack of papers, loan applications, bank statements, and a handwritten letter. Read it, she whispered. The letter was in Leo's handwriting, dated 2 days before his death. Dear Charlie, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. I know you'll be angry about the London plans, about the gallery idea, about keeping secrets. But there's something you don't know about Olivia. Something I've helped her hide for years. Stop, Olivia interrupted. Don't read the rest, I'll tell you myself. I set the letter down. I'm listening. The gambling debts aren't mine, she said, sinking into a chair. They're my son's. Luna's pen clattered to the floor. Your what? I had a baby, in college. Leo helped me place him for adoption, but he found me last year. He was in trouble, bad trouble, gambling debts to dangerous people. I sat down hard. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because Leo made me promise to keep it quiet. He was helping me pay off Tommy's debts, keeping him safe. When Leo died, she broke down, tears smearing her mascara. Tommy's in rehab now, but the people he owes money to, they're not patient. How much? Luna asked. 800,000. The number hung in the air like smoke. I picked up Leo's letter again, but Olivia reached across the table and grabbed my wrist. Please don't read it. Leo. He was angry when he wrote that. At me, at Tommy, at himself for getting involved. I don't want that to be how you remember him. Why the gallery? I asked instead. Why was that so important to him? Because art saved Tommy in rehab. He started painting, got really good at it. Leo thought if I had purpose, a way to help other people through art, maybe I could stop trying to fix Tommy's mistakes and let him fix himself. My phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. Outside with my portfolio whenever you're ready. I looked at Olivia's tear-stained face, then at Luna's concerned expression. Stay here, I said, standing up. Both of you. Sadie was sitting on my porch steps, her portfolio spread around her. Her face lit up when she saw me. I've been sketching ideas, she said excitedly. The lighting in here would be perfect for… How much do you know about art therapy? I interrupted. She blinked. Actually, that's my specialty. I work with addiction recovery programs, using art as healing. I helped her gather her sketches. Come inside. There's someone you need to meet. An hour later, my dining room had transformed into a makeshift gallery planning committee. Sadie's drawings covered the table, while Olivia, makeup fixed and eyes bright, pointed out potential exhibition spaces on the house plans. The conservatory could be a workshop area, she said, her old event planning confidence emerging, for therapy sessions and classes. And the garage could convert to a studio space, Sadie added. I know at least 3 other artists who'd rent time there. Luna cleared her throat. This is all great, but we still have the issue of Tommy's debts. I have an idea about that, I said. But first, Olivia needs to make some calls, starting with her therapist. Olivia nodded, pulling out her phone. I'll do it now. And Charlie? Thank you for not reading the rest of Leo's letter. After she stepped outside to make her calls, Luna turned to me. Are you sure about this? No, I admitted. But Leo was. And maybe that's enough. What about London? She pressed. The position? I watched through the window as Olivia paced the garden, talking intensely into her phone. I called them this morning. The position's still open, but they're willing to modify it to quarterly consultations instead. I can do most of the work remotely. Keeping an eye on things here? Exactly. Sadie looked up from her sketches. You know what would be amazing? Opening night could feature works by recovering addicts. Show the healing power of art. Including Tommy's paintings? I suggested. She grinned. Especially Tommy's paintings. Olivia came back inside, her face flushed but determined. I have an appointment tomorrow, and Tommy's counselor wants to do a family session next week. Good, I said, pulling out a fresh contract Luna had prepared, because this is going to take all of us. As we bent over the paperwork, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the window. 4 women, heads together, planning something bigger than revenge or redemption. Something that might actually heal. Leo would have loved it. This is Tommy, Olivia said, her hand resting protectively on the shoulder of a tall, thin young man with artist's hands and Leo's eyes. We were standing in what used to be my living room, now stripped bare for renovation. 3 weeks had passed since our confrontation, and the gallery transformation was underway. Your paintings are incredible, I said, gesturing to the portfolio he'd brought. Especially the one with the broken mirror pieces. Tommy shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Leo used to say art was like putting yourself back together, one piece at a time. The resemblance to Leo hit me harder than expected. Sadie must have noticed, because she quickly stepped in, directing Tommy's attention to the lighting plans she'd drawn up. We're thinking of featuring your mirror series in the main space, she said. If you're comfortable with that. I don't know if… he started. You should do it. Will's voice came from the doorway. We all turned to see him walking in, carrying a familiar wooden box. Leo would have wanted you to. Will? Olivia breathed. You came. Not for you, he said firmly. For this. He set the box down and opened it, revealing dozens of sketches and notes. Leo's original gallery plans. Thought you could use them. Tommy moved to examine the sketches, his fingers tracing his uncle's handwriting. He knew about my gambling, about the debts? He knew everything, Will said. And he never gave up on you. Either of you. He glanced at Olivia. Luna arrived then, carrying a stack of legal documents. The loan paperwork's ready. Once the gallery is registered as a nonprofit, we can start the debt consolidation process. And the dangerous people Tommy owes? Olivia asked quietly. Being handled, I assured her. My contacts at the DA's office are very interested in their operation. Sadie clapped her hands together. Okay, enough business talk. We need to decide on the opening night theme. Tommy, your mirror series got me thinking. What about Reflections of Recovery? As they dove into planning, I slipped away to Leo's study, soon to be the gallery's administrative office. Will followed me. You're doing a good thing here, he said, closing the door. Am I? Sometimes I wonder if I'm being naive. Leo wasn't naive, Will said, and he believed in this. In them. He pulled out an envelope. There's something else you should see. Inside was a series of emails between Leo and a rehabilitation center. The last one was dated the day he died, confirming a place for Tommy. He was on his way to pick Tommy up when he crashed, Will said softly. Not to sign any papers for Olivia. He was trying to save his nephew. The door opened, and Tommy himself walked in. I heard that, he said, and I need to tell you both something. We waited as he gathered himself. The night Uncle Leo died, I called Mom in a panic. The guys I owed money to, they were threatening me. She kept calling Leo for help, but I was the one who needed him. If I hadn't been such a coward, if I'd called him myself. Stop, I said firmly. Leo made his choice. He was trying to help because that's who he was. The question is, what are you going to do with your second chance? Tommy straightened up. I want to teach. Art therapy, like Sadie does. Help other addicts find their way back. Then that's what we'll do, I said. The gallery will need programs like that. A crash from the other room interrupted us, followed by Olivia's laugh, a sound I hadn't heard in months. We found her and Sadie surrounded by fallen paint samples, Luna trying desperately to organize them by color, while Ingrid documented the chaos on her phone. It's not funny, Luna protested, which only made them laugh harder. Looking at them, at Tommy's small smile, at Will's softening expression, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It was something better. We need to talk about the opening, Sadie said once they'd collected themselves. 6 weeks isn't much time. 8, I corrected. We're pushing it back 2 weeks. Why? Several voices asked at once. I pulled out my phone and showed them the email I'd received that morning. Because I just heard from an arts magazine. They want to do a feature on community recovery programs. If we time this right, we'll launch with national coverage. That's brilliant, Sadie exclaimed. Tommy, your work could reach so many people. Tommy looked overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of attention. You are, Olivia said firmly, and we'll all be here to support you. Will cleared his throat. I should go, but keep me updated? Stay, Olivia said softly. Please, we could use your business experience. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. 1 hour. As everyone returned to planning, I stood in the doorway of what used to be my perfect home with Leo. Now it was becoming something else, something that might help heal not just Tommy and Olivia, but an entire community. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's creating something beautiful from the ashes of what you've lost. Opening night arrived in a flurry of lights, music, and nervous energy. I stood in what used to be my kitchen, now transformed into a sleek reception area, watching caterers arrange hors d'oeuvres on silver trays. You need to change, Ingrid announced, appearing with a garment bag. The press will be here in an hour. Have you seen Olivia? I asked, accepting the bag. She was supposed to handle the guest list. In the main gallery with Tommy, he's freaking out about his installation. I found them in front of Tommy's centerpiece, a massive mirror mosaic depicting a phoenix rising from shattered pieces. Olivia was holding his hands, speaking softly. I can't do this, he was saying. What if everyone hates it? What if— Then they hate it, I interrupted. But they won't. Because it's honest, and that's what recovery is about. Right, Sadie? Sadie emerged from behind the installation, where she'd been adjusting lights. Exactly. And remember, half the artists showing tonight are in recovery too. You're not alone. Tommy's shoulders relaxed slightly. Is Will coming? He's already here, Olivia said softly. Setting up the donation station. I left them to finish preparing and went to change. The dress Ingrid had brought was perfect, elegant but understated, letting the art remain the focus. When I returned, the gallery was transforming. Lights dimmed to highlight the installations, soft music playing, the first guests arriving. Charlie! Luna called, waving me over to where she stood with a group of well-dressed people. The grant committee is here. They want to discuss funding for the therapy programs. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions, explanations, and carefully worded proposals. I was discussing outreach possibilities with a foundation director when a collective gasp drew everyone's attention to the entrance. Tommy had finally unveiled his second piece, a portrait of Leo constructed entirely from newspaper clippings about addiction and recovery. The effect was haunting and beautiful. That's him, isn't it? Will's voice came from beside me. That's really Leo. It's how Tommy saw him, I said. The person who tried to save him. He saved all of us, in different ways, Olivia added, joining us. She looked elegant and professional in her gallery director outfit. No trace of the desperate woman who'd tried to sell my house months ago. Even now, he's still saving us. The crowd grew larger, voices filled with appreciation and curiosity. I spotted several reporters taking notes, photographers capturing the installations. Sadie flitted between groups, explaining the therapy programs we'd be offering. Excuse me, a quiet voice said. We turned to find a middle-aged woman in recovery medallions looking at Tommy's phoenix. How much for this piece? Tommy, who'd been hiding near the refreshments, stepped forward. It's not for sale. It's part of the permanent collection. Shame, she said. It's exactly how getting clean felt for me, breaking apart and coming back stronger. Tommy's face lit up, and soon they were deep in conversation about their recovery journeys. Olivia watched them, tears in her eyes. He's going to be okay, I told her. We all are. Thanks to you, she said. You could have destroyed me after what I did. You had every right to. That's not what Leo would have wanted. No, Will agreed, surprising us both. He would have wanted this. He gestured to the transformed space, the mingling crowds, the art that spoke of pain and healing and hope. The evening peaked when the Arts magazine editor arrived, immediately drawn to Tommy's installations. This is remarkable, she said, snapping photos. The integration of therapy and art, the community involvement. You've created something unique here. We had a good blueprint, I said, thinking of Leo's journals and sketches. And an amazing team. Later, as the crowd thinned and the caterers began cleaning up, I found myself in Leo's study, now my office. The walls were lined with his design sketches, preserved behind glass. Hey, Olivia said from the doorway. The final numbers are in. We raised enough to cover Tommy's debts and fund the therapy programs for a year. Leo would be proud, I said. Of all of us. She nodded, then hesitated. Will asked me to coffee tomorrow, to talk. Good, I smiled. That's good. After she left, I sat at my desk, Leo's old desk, and opened his journal to the last entry. I'd never finished reading his letter, choosing instead to let his final words remain private. Some things, I'd learned, were better left in the past. The sound of laughter drew me back to the main gallery, where Tommy was showing Sadie sketches for his next series. Will and Olivia stood nearby, their body language cautiously optimistic. Luna was already planning the next exhibition with her tablet, while Ingrid documented everything for our social media launch. This wasn't the home Leo and I had planned. It was something different, something larger than us. a place where broken people could put themselves back together, one piece at a time. Just like Tommy's phoenix, we had all risen from the ashes of what we'd lost, creating something beautiful in its place. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh paint through the gallery's open windows as I hung the last photograph in our new Family Ties exhibition. It showed Leo and Tommy in the garage that was now our most popular studio space, both covered in sawdust and laughing. "That's my favorite," Olivia said, joining me with 2 coffee cups. "I forgot I even had that picture." "Found it in Leo's old files," I said, accepting the coffee. Seemed fitting for today's event. We'd closed the gallery for a private showing, Tommy's first solo exhibition since completing his art therapy certification. The past few months had transformed him from a nervous artist into a confident teacher, leading workshops for recovering addicts 3 times a week. "Did you see the piece he created for Will and me?" Olivia asked, leading me to a quiet corner of the gallery. The painting captured a simple scene: Will and Olivia sitting on our old porch steps, sharing a cup of coffee. But the technique, layers of paint stripped away to reveal hidden colors beneath, spoke volumes about their journey back to each other. "Second chances," I murmured. "Speaking of which," Olivia pulled out her phone, "look what came today." It was a photo of her 6-month sobriety chip, gleaming gold against her palm. "I'm proud of you," I said, and meant it. The gallery doors opened, and Sadie burst in with her usual whirlwind energy. "The students are here, and wait until you see what they've created." We followed her to the community workspace, where a dozen people, Tommy's first therapy group, stood nervously beside their artworks. Each piece told a story of addiction and recovery, fear and hope. "Welcome to your first exhibition," Tommy said, his voice steady and warm. "You've all worked incredibly hard for this moment." "Thanks to you," one of the students said. "And this place. It saved my life." Will arrived then, carrying boxes of new gallery brochures. The printer threw in extra copies when I told him what they were for. Apparently, his daughter's in recovery too. As the students began setting up their pieces, Luna appeared with a surprise. The arts magazine that had featured us was doing a follow-up story. "They want to focus on the therapy program's success rate," she announced. "Tommy, they're calling you a pioneer in arts-based recovery." Tommy blushed, but stood straighter. "It's not just me, it's all of us." "Speaking of all of us," Ingrid called from the entrance, "there's someone here you should meet." She led in an elderly couple, both looking somewhat lost. They saw the gallery website, their son. "We lost him last year," the woman said softly. "To addiction. We'd like to establish a scholarship fund for artists who can't afford therapy." "I can help with the paperwork," Luna offered, leading them to my office. I watched them go, remembering how this all started, with grief and revenge, and a house I couldn't bear to lose. Now that house had become a lifeline for so many others. "Hey!" Olivia touched my arm. "Tommy wants to show you something." He led us to a covered canvas in the main gallery space. "I've been working on this for months," he said, gripping the sheet. It's for you, Charlie." The painting took my breath away. It showed Leo and me in this very room, but reimagined as it was now, filled with art and light and healing. We were dancing, though we'd never actually danced here. Behind us, shadowy figures moved toward the light, souls finding their way home. "It's called The House That Love Rebuilt," Tommy said quietly. I couldn't speak, but I didn't need to. The gallery was filling up with people, students proudly showing their work, Will and Olivia greeting guests hand in hand, Sadie explaining techniques to interested visitors, Luna and Ingrid managing the practical details that kept everything running smoothly. "There's something else," Olivia said, pulling out an envelope. "Remember those dangerous people Tommy owed money to? The DA's office just closed the case. They're going away for a long time." "And the house?" Tommy asked. "Officially registered as a non-profit arts therapy center," Luna confirmed, returning from her meeting. "Permanently." I touched the frame of Tommy's painting, feeling the texture of the canvas. "Leo knew, didn't he? He knew this place could be more than just a home. He knew you'd figure it out eventually, Will said. That's why he left it to you. The evening sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the gallery floors. Somewhere in the building, laughter echoed, the sound of healing, of second chances, of love rebuilding what was broken. I didn't need to read Leo's last letter anymore. His vision was all around us, living and breathing in every brushstroke, every smile, every step toward recovery. This wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of a bigger one that would continue to unfold in this house that love rebuilt, one broken piece at a time. Ready to open the doors? Sadie asked, her hand on the gallery entrance. I looked around at my family, not the one I'd lost, but the one I'd found, and nodded. Let's let the light in,